So this comes up more than once in the series, and later on in more significant ways that I'll discuss when we get to it. But every so often there's an episode that wants to tell a story that just doesn't really fit in the rest of the series. But they tell it anyways. So the premise of the story in this episode includes this family that supposedly has worked at the mansion for years, except we've never seen or heard anything about them yet. They just invented this family in this one episode to tell this weird upstairs, downstairs servants and master story for this one singular episode, and then they're out again after that one episode. So it doesn't really fit at all, but whatever. I still found some interesting things to talk about anyways. So the series purports to present Lex as a villain in the making, right? That's the claim the series is making. But episode after episode, they keep demonstrating that he's not a villain. And in this episode, we see again, Lex is not just a good guy. He's like nicer than he even has to be. Okay, so in this episode, he's got this stalker, right? And then a stalker turned thief and her brother who attempts to murder him. And he handles this entire situation, this whole thing, with both these kids, troubled teens, and their mother, this family, in like the absolute nicest, most compassionate way imaginable. He was way nicer than he had to be. He doesn't act angry at all.
See, Lex is the only one who ever treated me like I was there.
Please don't call the police.
I'm not interested in retribution or publicity, but Amy needs help. Counseling, medical treatment, whatever it takes, just send me the bill.
Yeah, again, Mr. Luthor,
It's okay. It's okay. Drive safely.
He's exceptionally kind-hearted to this family. The girl was creepy as heck, and she was a thief of something valuable to him, both personally and monetarily. Her brother Jeff literally tries to kill Lex twice at the end. And like when Clark asks him at the end of the episode, asks Lex, so what's going to happen to him, to Jeff? Lex's response was a lot of serious therapy. Like, even that's really an extraordinarily kind take on the situation. Like, he's recognizing right away that these are mental health issues and he's not holding it against the guy personally, even though literally he almost died. Again, he almost died because this kid is crazy. He just has a lot of, like, pity and compassion for their whole situation, which is very generous, way more generous than he needs to be. So, not only are they not actually showing Lex to be a villain, they're failing miserably at it. Like, they're showing he's a particularly compassionate person. And which, of course, that is the premise of my channel. They failed miserably at making Lex a villain. He's not a villain in this series. Okay, important interaction. So, at the, beanery, Chloe and Clark witness Lana getting upset with Whitney, because Whitney's keeping something from her, and she knows. She doesn't know what it is, but she knows he's keeping something from her. And she tells Whitney, if you can't even confide in me, I don't even know why we're going out in the first place. Okay. Clark hears this entire conversation. He is hearing Lana very clearly communicate that she is not interested in a relationship that doesn't involve mutual trust and openness and vulnerability. So Clark knows that Lana isn't interested in a relationship with him, a guy who keeps major secrets and lies all the time. Okay? And instead of us seeing Clark then grapple with this information like, wow, I really like Lana, but clearly I'm not a good match for her. I'm not going to make her happy because she wants trust and I can't trust anybody. Instead of that, it is almost the next scene, okay? Like just a couple scenes later, we see Clark telling Lex, hey, I finally decided I'm going to fight for Lana. Like, it's almost exactly the opposite of what you would have expected. You would expect Clark would hear Lana say that and be thinking, wow, you know what? If I really love this girl and I really care about her, I need to recognize that I'm not a good match and I'm only going to hurt her if I try to pursue a relationship. But it's like it does exactly the opposite for Clark. He decides now he's listening to her say this to Whitney and then goes, yeah, this is perfect. I'm going to go for it. That is so messed up. That's just scumbag behavior. That's not how a hero behaves. He's not thinking about Lana at all here. He's just thinking about himself. He's so self-obsessed. He literally just heard her say how important trust is to her, and he immediately decides he's going to pursue her with every intention of not trusting her with his secret. And by the way, he has a much bigger secret to deal with than Whitney's hiding. He's manipulating her. He's toying with her heart, knowing she won't be okay with the situation, but I don't know. I guess he's just seeing if he can get away with it. Clark's a jerk. I don't know what to say. Clark is a jackass. Just like on the outside, the narrative is that Lex is a villain, but if you actually pay attention, Lex is actually a particularly nice guy. Not even just kind of a nice guy, he's particularly nice. On the other side, we look at Clark and it's like, the narrative is that Clark is the hero, but if you actually pay attention to what's going on, he's particularly self-obsessed. He's particularly selfish. He's a jerk. All right, a Johnathan-Lionel contrast. In this episode, I mentioned this in the last one, I didn't realize it was actually the very next episode this happens. Johnathan straight up instructs his son that he can't be honest with everyone.
I can't even believe I'm actually going to say this, but I guess you can't always be honest with people. It's one of the prices you pay for your abilities.
Contrast this with Lionel, okay? Lionel, we know, isn't always honest either, right? Everybody in this show lies, unfortunately. But I don't think I ever hear Lionel straight up say lying is acceptable. He does tell lies, but I don't hear him telling Lex that he should tell lies. What Jonathan's doing is worse. Johnathan is not only a liar, he is positively he is positively teaching his son that lying is a righteous thing. That's another lie on top of it. That's another vicious act on top of the lying itself that I don't see Lionel committing. I see Johnathan doing it. I don't see Lionel doing it. Anyways.
It's always a game. He's like, no one, because deep down, if you look at it subtextually, I think that Lex perhaps is someone who never feels like anyone will love him for who he is.
Yeah, I've come to the same conclusion about Lex. I mentioned something about this in one of my other videos. Yeah, I think Lex has kind of low-key despaired of ever having anyone in his life who will love him for his own sake. He probably feels like his mother did, but his mother lost her mind and died. Also, I note Lex, when he's talking to Clark about the Victoria thing, and Lex tells Clark that it's a game. Like, he's just playing a game with Victoria. He's openly acknowledging it's not any kind of serious romantic relationship. It's business, and they're playing games, and, But Lex says something similar. I don't remember if this already happened or if this happens in an episode later on. But there's some scene where he's talking to Lionel, and Lionel's saying something about, like, Lex playing games. Like, in a negative context. And Lex tells his dad, games are all we have. Dad, games are all we have. And I think it's just showing now, this is what he knows. This is how he's been taught to interact with people. I don't think that's what he wants, but I think this is what he knows and this is what he's been taught. This is how you interact with people around you. You play games. Having a real serious relationship with anybody. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship like that. That's one with his father. Like even a relationship with his family. It's just not in his grasp. He has no context for this. He watches other people do it, but he doesn't know how to interact like that himself. He's never been taught. No one's ever done that for him. And when he tries to have an honest, open friendship with Clark just plays games with him. So he sees Clark and the Kents, and they appear to be open, honest people. They seem like they're solid, good people, right? Wholesome people. And he wants to be friends with Clark. But then when Clark interacts with him, he plays games with him. So even the people that he looks and says, you seem like you're doing it right, if he interacts with them, they don't. They play games. Lex's reaction to the haunting or whatever, what Jeff's doing with the spray paint and the vandalism in the house, it reminds me of this meme I saw once, where it's like you're dealing with weird paranormal stuff, and you're supposed to be shocked, but like you're just too tired to care. But like that's his reaction to this, like, oh wow, okay, my house is haunted, whatever. Kind of got other stuff I'm going through right now. When Lionel shows up to try and convince Lex to dump Victoria, he says two revealing things. He says,
it's always business.
And
if you sell out your family, then you will truly be alone in the world.
So we see from both these statements, again, that Lionel has also despaired of having authentic, healthy relationships. And we also see that Lionel does value family, even if he doesn't have a healthy relationship with them. Clark uses his X-ray vision to spy on Whitney and figure out what medicine he has in his backpack. Now, this is creepy, okay? These are the kinds of things I talked about in this last video. Clark is letting his emotions rule his actions. He didn't even stop to think about whether spying on Whitney, like x-raying his bag, was right or wrong. He just felt like doing it. He knew he could get away with it. He was curious. He wanted to know. So he did it. I'm curious, can anyone out there, how could he possibly justify spying on him like that? How can you possibly justify spying on some medication in some other dude's bag? Clark makes the claim that he never uses his x-ray vision to invade people's privacy, but that's obviously not true. He does use it to invade people's privacy. And of course, Clark spies on Lana and Whitney, but this is more of the same, him and his telescope. There's a scene Whitney explains to Clark, when Clark confronts him, Whitney explains that his dad is in the hospital and he doesn't want to burden Lana with this. And Clark tells Whitney that you're not giving Lana enough credit. You should be more honest with her. I find that very interesting that Clark is saying this, because contrast this with how little Clark trusts Lana over the series. Remember back in the episode with Harry Volk, the one with Cassandra, the old lady in her visions? Clark said the exact same thing when Chloe asked whether Lana was coming, and he's like, no, I think she's had enough weirdness from one day. So when it was on him, Clark absolutely did the exact same thing, and now he's like chiding and admonishing Whitney for not trusting Lana. Clark doesn't trust Lana. This is exactly how Clark treats Lana. He's a hypocrite. At the end, Clark lies to Lex about how Jeff turned invisible. But I don't get why. It's like he's just compulsively lying at this point. Why can't he tell him about the rose oil? By the way, did anybody notice the green rose at the beginning of the episode? I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. They show you the green rose, though. They just don't talk about it. But seriously, why can't he tell Lex about the rose oil? What's he going to do? Uproot all the roses? Don't you think somebody's going to find a green rose bush on the property sooner or later? But, he's just, his normal thing is just lie. Anything that has anything to do with him and the kryptonite and whatever, lie to Lex as much as possible. It's ridiculous.
We don't know why the pink is on the scaffolding there, but it's conveniently there unnoticed the whole episode. Do these little all too convenient things that Smallville does ever bother you?
So the convenient paint, that's just conveniently there to fall on top of Jeff, that doesn't really bother me. But is anyone else curious what it was in the otherwise dark Gothic mansion that required an entire bucket each of bright red and yellow paint? What the heck are they painting?
This is an episode where they really hammer home the fact that you guys are becoming friends.
Hard disagree. I don't think they are becoming friends. I think Lex still wants to be friends, but I don't think Clark is being a friend to Lex at all.
Yeah.
And when Clark shows up, and I think it's one of the first times where Lex goes, "Clark, how'd you get in here?" He didn't say that.
I think the real reason why Lex isn't asking, how did you get in here, is because he knows how Clark gets in here. Remember earlier, Clark saw Victoria snooping on the computer and Lex just calmly assures him that he's well aware of what's going on. And he tells Clark, not much happens in the mansion without my knowledge. Low key, Lex is informing Clark that he knows what goes on on his property. That will include Clark using his superpowers that he thinks are secret and nobody's noticing, because if no one says anything, he just assumes nobody saw. But that's not true. Lex sees things. He notices things. He's got cameras. He's not stupid. So he doesn't ask how he gets in because he knows how he gets in. Remember this too, this is after the episode with the break-in at the museum. Also, when Jeff knocks Lex unconscious and then Clark shows up at the mansion, Jeff hits him in the head with the mace and the mace just shatters, right? And Jeff says,
"That's right. I've heard Luthor talk about you, like you're something special."
So Jeff has heard Lex talking about Clark having special abilities. So when the mace shatters on his head, Jeff's like, "Oh, that's right, I forgot. You're that guy." Lex knows. Okay, side note, look. I'm glad Clark saved Victoria from drowning. But come on, is the sound of glass breaking enough to justify breaking down a bathroom door without even knocking? What if she just dropped something? If you hear glass break in my bathroom, I want you to knock first. Creep. Also, here's the painting by David that Lex is describing about the coronation of Napoleon. In case anyone's interested.